Obviously, I'm here to provide comment from the events of last night regarding George Del Rio. I've spoken to his wife and been to Grandview today. And, you know, I think Dayton and most of this community is, and all of this community, frankly, is heartbroken over such a tragedy to happen last night. And so our community has already endured too much senseless tragedy this year, and the Dayton Police Department has risen to the task each and every time. In light of that, violence striking the department directly is especially painful. I know that the Dayton community joins me in sending our prayers and thoughts to Officer Del Rio and his family, as well as to his colleagues in the Dayton Police Department. I'm happy to answer any questions. You probably got most of the information you needed at the press conference this afternoon.
Is there anything you could tell us, Mayor, an update since that press conference about Detective Del Rio's status or condition?
No, I mean, I saw his wife, or before your press conference today. You know, he is on life support. We continue to pray for him and pray for his family, and pray for the Dayton officers that have been touched in so many ways by so much tragedy this year.
Is there anything you could be doing, the community could be doing for the family? Because they talked about like a resource, kind of like, you know, someone coordinating resources. What does the family need at this point? I
think right now, you know, the Dayton Police and the Fraternal Order of Police are holding the family and making sure that they have what they need. I'm sure, I talked to Rick Oakley this evening, I'm sure FOP and Dayton Police will have needs in the future, and so I ask that you just continue to cover it, and when they have those asked in the future, and I know this community will be incredibly generous to the Del Rio family.
Do you know when the last time somebody, Dayton police officer was severely injured like that?
I know the last loss of life was Mary Beal, and you know, I know on the first Friday in May we all go to the police victims memorial that's held at Riverscape. Before that it was held at Courthouse, and frankly you go every year and you hope that you have another year where no officer has lost their life, and every year that you are successful in that, you're grateful. And so I know that's the last time we've had an officer that has died.
What do you make of the outpouring of support from the community? I mean, obviously we've seen the Dayton Strong with everything that's happened this year, but, you know, again, here this week.
Look, I continue to be amazed and filled with gratitude from the citizens of Dayton. I, you know, really shouldn't expect anything less anymore, just because of just how wonderful and how giving this community is. I know that this community is holding the Del Rio family in their hearts and in their prayers right now, and that's what we need most of all right now as we continue, and I know in the future I know that family will need more.
Did you find out anything just like about this officer, or, you know, the family, just like anything about how they're involved with the community, or what type of community members they are?
Well, I saw his wife Kathy today, and she reminded me that I had married someone in their family, so they've been active in the community and been around the community as well. I talked to Judge Garris this evening, and you know, Judge Garris has been a municipal court judge for, I think, over 30 years now. Is that right? I think. And so he knew Officer Del Rio before he was embedded at DEA, because he would get search warrants and they would come to, you know, his street, and so he knows a lot of, particularly the officers that are involved in doing this important work. So I would encourage you all to go see Judge Garris. He has some stories about Officer Del Rio, particularly his penchant for toy collecting, which Judge Garris is also, you know, a toy collector. So so people, I think, are sharing stories about that. I know the officers that know him are, you know, in addition to doing anything they can for the family, are sharing stories that they have. I mean, he was an honorable, good, amazing, heroic man, and he is.
I can't imagine what their family's going through. I mean, you said you had the chance to, you know, interact with his wife a little bit today. I mean, what was that interaction like?
Yeah, she's an incredibly strong woman. So, you know, this is what I know about Dayton Police and Dayton police officers' families. They're stronger than most families, frankly, and just full of love. And so, you know, that's what I felt today when I saw them, and very grateful for the community's support and the community's appreciation for what her husband does. So, a very strong and a very strong woman, which I am always impressed with.
Mayor, we've had a spate of officer-involved shootings, not just Dayton, but this area as a whole. Is it a sign of a larger issue? What are you talking when you talk to Chief Beal on briefings? Not this case specifically, but overall.
Look, this is an issue across the country, you know, and with mayors across the country, we've had these discussions about an increase in gun violence, and then just because of the increase of gun violence, you see more officer-involved shootings because just of the ubiquity of guns, too. So this is something that I've been talking to cities across the country for the past, actually this past year has been incredible. I think some cities saw it last year previously, a big uptick, and so we are seeing that this year. Certainly Chief Beal is well aware of it. It is why we continue to advocate on some needs for some changes in laws, and it's also why we continue to be grateful for the heroism of our police officers.
What are those cities doing that maybe Dayton could do in the future?
Look, I mean, I'm not saying that anybody's taken an action that's been necessarily successful. What I'm saying is nationally we're seeing an uptick of officer-involved shootings, and we're seeing an uptick in gun violence. And I think we've talked a lot about how we're seeing an uptick in gun violence. With officer-involved shootings, cities are sharing resources and sharing practices, but I do think they're connected. You're seeing more gun violence, you're seeing more officer-involved shootings.
What is the city going to do to help these officers get through yet another tragedy?
Well, I think you talked to the city manager about what we want to do as an organization and what we continue to do. You know, we think it's really important that being strong is also making sure that you get the help and resources you need. This organization has been through an incredible amount of trauma this year. We're open about it, we're honest about it, we're trying to showcase behavior that we want others to do, and making sure that they get the help that they need and that they're safe to say that they need that. I think Chief Beal, over the past 13 years that he's been the police chief here in Dayton, has changed the culture around this organization, and particularly the Dayton Police Department being open about their needs. I commend him for his leadership on that. I think it's making a great difference, and quite frankly, I don't know how well we'd get through this year without such great leadership of Chief Beal.
At the end of all this, you know, it's like a culmination of events. Like, do you worry that this puts the community on edge that could lead to additional traumatic events, or do you feel like, you know, the culmination of events, maybe we'll see attrition in police officers? Like, what do you think is the main consequence, or what's your main fear from this series of, you know, tragedies?
Well, I think we're all just processing it like everyone else, right? Trying to get through what we've seen this summer, and what we continue to experience. So, you know, I know, for example, that, you know, what has happened in May and August particularly will have a significant tail for our community, and it will take years for people to be able to recover for their homes, and then also recover to feel more comfortable, you know, just in general. People are going to have that experience in that time, and so some of this we have to just give time to. And then, you know, we are constantly talking to, you know, other communities, other special, you know, people that are experienced in trauma, to see what we can do as a community and help with that. And we're having conversations with folks. There's lots and lots of ideas coming our way. How do we really process, honor what has gone on, and, you know, make the best out of these tough situations? I have been, for me, and watching the citizens of Dayton and the Dayton region this year, you know, I have been amazed how much pain and suffering that this community has had, and how much beauty has come out of it. And I know that, you know, I've learned, you know, that this grieving, personally, that this grieving is a process, and that as a community you do that as well. And we will continue to do everything we can to hold this community together and make sure that people know they have a place to go, and that the members of our staff have that, that Dayton Police has that, but the community has that as well.
How are the other police officers holding up, particularly, the 4th is the anniversary of the shooting?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the officers that I've talked to are doing their job. Sometimes you just do the work, right? And so doing the work is, and you guys know this, going through August 4th, you do the work, and then you try to figure out the process next. I think they're doing that. I think, some of them are trying to think about the future at the same time. They're humans. I know they do amazing things, but they're humans too, and so they're processing just like we all do. I really appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for your thoughtful coverage on this issue.
Thanks, Matt.